Hiya, I'm Angie Bagot and today we're doing Social Media 101. Well, I got into social in quite an unconventional way actually. I started off as an office intern at a company called Something Else, which is an indie company. They create content and they do production, mainly for TV and social media. So from there, I worked my way up into branded content, became a branded content coordinator, and then came over to Bauer as a social media manager, and the magic happened there. My role includes creating the social strategy for our commercial campaigns. So when we have commercial campaigns, I will take that, create social plans from what's been sold, and we will create the content, we will monitor the social, and we'll make sure that we hit those KPIs. So first of all, what platforms are you thinking of posting on? Is it Facebook, Twitter, Instagram? By knowing that, you'll also know what content, what format your content is going to be in, and you can start to create your assets. You will also need to know what time you're going to post. To know what time you're going to post, you can speak to the social managers if you're working with brands and find out what time works best for them. Or a really great thing to do is to look at what time your audience are the most engaged with your pages. So by looking, let's talk Facebook for example, by looking at the back end of Facebook, you can see that your audience are engaged with your posts around, I don't know, between 9 and 10 p.m. because they might be lying in bed staring at their phone. That's what your audience like to do. So it's really important to get all of that detail and put that into your plan. So that's your time to post. The next thing that we do is put the key messages into your plan. So again, making sure that you know exactly why you're posting what you're posting. What do you want to achieve from this post? Put that into your key messages section. After your key messaging, you want to write the headline. Now, this is kind of like a title. Say you have an article, your headline will be top tips for social plans, for example. And then you write your copy and you start to write out exactly what it is you want to say to your audience. After you've written your copy, in fact, another thing about copy, just make sure that when you're writing copy, it's not rigid, unless that's what your audience like to engage with, but it actually has a bit of personality to it. Think about when you're scrolling through your timeline, what's going to make you stop on that post? So after your copy, you want to find out what sort of target audience you're looking at. Who are you trying to target with this post? So I don't know, say we are posting about cars. Actually no, we're posting about shopping because I like shopping. So what type of audience would engage with a post about shopping? You would have engaged shoppers, you would have people who shop at H&M, people who like online shopping, bloggers who like looking at all of these products that are in your article or on your video, for example, whatever it is. Just brainstorm exactly what it is that these type of people might be, kind of like an audience profile, and that's going to be your target audience. So for example, if my post is about shoes, who's going to want to see posts about shoes? First of all, people who visit your website, they are your #1 fans, so target them. And then you want to target people who are interested in shoes, so I don't know, places who sell shoes, H&M, New Look, Clarks, things like that. Target your competitors as well, because their audience could also become your audience. It's kind of like putting together an audience profile. Just who are you trying to reach? Where do you want this to be seen? Write that down, just keep brainstorming. Whatever you come up with, put it into your notes, put it into your social plan, and that's what it's there for. Now, the next box in your social plan is all about where your post is linking out to. If it's a video, it doesn't necessarily have to go anywhere because what you want them to do is watch that video, right? So why would you send them somewhere else? If your post is there to raise awareness or to engage your audience by clicking through to another page, like your website page, for example, then you just want to record the link that you are going to click out to. It can be a short link or a long link. Preferably, When you're posting, you want to use short links because it's not as messy on the post. It really depends what your house style is going to be. At Bauer, we use short links, like I said, because it's not as messy. The only thing you need to think about is whether your audience are going to trust that. So you can use bits of software like Rebrandly, for example, where you can change that short link into something that your audience will identify with. So let's use a Bauer brand. It could be magic.com/whatever, right? Instead of bit.ly/whatever. Then your audience will know where they're going. So that's why it's really good to use short links. Now, the last thing you want to do is add a section so that you can record the link to your post, the URL to your post. The reason we do that is because, say you have a very large campaign and you're posting a lot and you've got loads of lines in your spreadsheet on your social plan, when you want to record your results and find out how it's done, how exactly are you gonna remember what you've posted? So once it is posted, just pop the link into that box, and at a later date you can come back, look at that and go straight to your post, and hey presto, it's all there for you. Now, how do you negotiate the time and space to make sure that you can even post what you want to post on that particular brand? It's really important to build up a great relationship with the social managers that you're working with, so that they can tell you what works for them and you can tell them what you need from a client perspective or a brand perspective, whatever it is that you're working with. So your social manager will know the most about their brand than anybody else, so use them to your advantage. They can tell you when the best time to post is for your commercial content, if that's what it is. They will know just exactly by looking at your social plan. They can see what it is that you want to post, what times work best for their audience. Use them to your advantage. They are your specialists for the brand, you could say. So now it's time to create my post, right? Where do I go to do that? If we're talking Facebook, then I will go straight onto the main page and start typing. I will add my content, I will add the headline, everything that we're just picking things up from our social plan here and dropping them into the post. So I'll add my headline, I'll add my content, I'll add my copy, and then I'll tag the brand, because if it's a commercial campaign, this is one of the restrictions, this is one of the rules that Facebook has, and you have to follow it. These are branded content guidelines that are there for brand safety, and yeah, you have to follow it. So there it is. I will create the post, and then if I need to schedule it, I will literally just press schedule. So there's like a little arrow at the bottom of your post. I'll click on that. It should be a drop down menu. I'll click schedule. I'll put the time in there, which we've already agreed with our social managers, and the date that it will be going live, and we'll click save. Done. Now, if we are creating content on Twitter, again, I will go straight onto the main feed if I haven't got access to the business side of Twitter. If I do have access to the business side of Twitter, then I will go to create content. I will upload my video, and I'll fill in all of the little bits that it requires me to fill in. So again, the headline, the link that we're sending people to, the content that we're using, and again, I will schedule it as and how the platform is asking me to do so. One thing to keep in mind is formats that you're putting on each platform. Twitter, for example, really favours short videos, so anything lower than 30 seconds I'll usually put on Twitter. Facebook, I usually wouldn't put anything longer than 2 minutes, because again, think about how you use it. You're scrolling through Facebook, are you really going to sit there and watch an hour-long video? I don't think so. So if I have something that's an hour long, which I rarely do, but if I do, I will go for a platform that favours long-form content, such as YouTube, right? Instagram only allows 60 seconds anyway. So if I've got something that's short and snappy that I've put on Twitter, and maybe I've put it on Facebook too, then I might also pop it on Instagram if I feel like it works for my brand and my audience. You've just got to think about what works where, what formats work on each platform, and then you just go with it. Now, my favourite platform is Instagram stories. Why? Because there's so much you can do on it. It's kind of like Snapchat. It's a little bit more personal. It gives people a look at kind of the personality of the brand, right? And that's what people want to see. They want to be engaged. They want to know who you are, and they want to know what you do. So for me, Instagram stories allows you to do that. It allows you to be less formal and just have a little bit of fun with it. It only lasts 24 hours, so you don't have to worry about things sort of piling up on your feed, or maybe you're thinking about how your feed looks design-wise. Instagram stories, you can just pop it, 24 hours later, it's gone. Another thing that I really love about Instagram stories is they're only 15 seconds long. Now, I found that quite hard to work with at first because I just didn't know how to condense everything into 15 seconds. But if you can do that, get your point out in 15 seconds, then you've pretty much won them over. Just get to the point. That's what social media is about. Nobody wants to be sitting there for ages. For that, they'll go to YouTube. Now, Instagram stories is really great because it favors portrait content, right? And the one thing about portrait content is that is literally the screen of your mobile. That means that's all they can see at that one particular point in time. That is what they're engaging with. That's what they're focused on. And that's what I want. As an advertiser, that is exactly what I want. Now, as the person who's creating this social content, you now have a responsibility to think about the wider world around you. How can you think about diversity? How can you think about something outside of yourself, outside of your box? So let me give you an example. If I have a selection of images to choose from, and I'm going to talk about race. So if I have a selection of images to work from, of models, for example, from different ethnicities, now, purely because of the background that I come from, I will think, well, how can I represent other people? How can I represent ethnicities? Can I get somebody of an African Caribbean ethnicity in there? Can I get somebody who is, I don't know, from Japan? Like, what can I do that's different? How can I make this engaging, not just for someone like me, but for other people who are looking with this content and engaging with it? Who are your audience really? They're not people just like you. There are millions of types of people out there. There are blind people. Do we need to start thinking about how that content how they can engage with that content? Do we need to start thinking about sound? Like, what can we do? That's really innovative types of content, right? We need to start thinking about people who are deaf, subtitles. It's just your responsibility to think about everyone that you can possibly think about who's going to be engaging with your content. And that's not a boundary or a wall that you need to climb over. That's an opportunity, so take it. Now, in the world of social, you are going to come up against a lot of things and you might start to panic, right? How am I going to get it all done on time? I don't have enough budget for this. They want Star Wars. They are going to get a plastic lightsaber. How do you deal with all of these things? So the best way to get creative when you run into these situations is to, number one, be calm, because it's not the end of the world. And number two, think about what you already have, right? What can you use that's around you that can resolve this situation? For example, if you don't have any budget, but you need to shoot, you need to do a photo shoot with all of these face creams, right? I can't pay for a model. I can't pay for a set. What am I gonna do? Okay, well, what do I have? I have these face creams. I have myself. I have a house. Like, I have, I have these things around me that I could use. I have a camera phone. The best content that I have created has been made on my camera phone and my iPad. Seriously, best things ever. Anyway, I would take my face creams and I would take myself and I would figure out, I don't know, how I can do maybe like a little GIF, something that wouldn't take me long to shoot. Back and forth. What do people like to see? There's images on social media right now of people literally ruining their makeup, right? So, I don't know, they get a fork and they scrape away at it, and these are the most engaging pieces of content on Instagram right now. It's crazy. It could be the simplest thing. That's the point. Just get creative with it. If somebody has a question, answer it. If somebody has a complaint, reply to it. And it's best to do this in the feed if it's something that's quite simple to answer, so that other people can see what you've said. They might have the same questions as well. If it is a really, really bad complaint that you don't particularly want to answer in your feed, then just say, hey, thank you so much for your comment. I've dropped you a DM, which is a direct message, right? That way they're still being responded to, they don't feel neglected, and you're keeping that engagement and that relationship with your audience. Now, in terms of deleting posts forever, you just need to think about when and why that might be required. It's not something that I like to do because I feel like you're trying to hide from whatever the situation is. But if things get out of hand and you're doing something for a client, it might just be the only option, right? So the only time I will ever delete a post is if there is profanity being used, if the comment is racist and just completely unnecessary being there. If it doesn't need to be on the post, if it's offensive, it's gotta go. Now, you might be wondering, well, how exactly do I get those results? How do I know how well my post has performed? Each platform has its own way of doing analysis. Let's talk about Facebook. With Facebook, you go into Business Manager if you have access to Business Manager, or on your page, you can go in via Insights. Now, what that will give you is an overview of all of the data your page has collected about your audience, at the content and the posts that you've been posting over the duration of time that you've been around, right? It's a really useful resource. So just have a play around, see what you can do with it, and that is the best way to find out how to use it. Number one is make sure that you know the regulations for each platform that you're using. Facebook, for example, if you're doing an organic post or a paid post, you want to make sure that you tag the brand you're working with. This is just a guideline that Facebook have put in place. I guess it's not a guideline, you don't have a choice, you need to tag the brand you're working with. Now, if you're working on Twitter, it works a little bit differently to Facebook because they don't have the capability to tag the brand in the same way. So you would put @ whatever their social handle is, and at the end you would put #ad or #spawn or, you know, whatever works for you. But you need to make sure that people know that it's an ad. Obviously, if it's not an ad, you don't need to do that. If you are working with Instagram, the same applies as Facebook. You want to use the branded content handle to tag the brand, and then, I mean, usually you should put #ad on the end, but it's not entirely necessary as you've already tagged the brand that you're working with. So yeah, it's kind of just being very aware of where you're posting and how you need to write the copy for that particular platform. So my second top tip would be, do not steal other people's content. Create your own. That's what social media is there for. Create your own content, learn how to speak to your audience the way your audience want you to speak to them, rather than taking content that somebody else has created and you're kind of just, you know, rolling off the back of, you know, their success. Also, it is a little bit sort of foggy there as to whether that's allowed legally to take someone else's content and, you know, advertise with it. Something says no, that's not right. Now, my next top tip would be about copywriting. I'm going to start off by saying I am terrible at spelling, but it's something that I've had to become better at, because when you're posting online, spelling something incorrectly just doesn't look great, I'm afraid. So constantly go over your copy, have somebody check it for you, make sure you're spelling things correctly. Don't do a sort of iPhone mistake where, you know, it's an autocorrect blunder. You don't want that. Just make sure your copy is on point. So outside of work, I make sure that I'm constantly doing loads of different things, because personally, I don't like just going in one direction. I think the more things that you can learn outside of work or inside of work, whatever you're doing, it will influence what I'm doing here, and it will just make this particular thing so much better, right? So I'm also the founder of a group called the Fempire Collective, which is a group of entrepreneurs and women of colour who are building their own brands and, you know, really are focusing on world domination. So what that's taught me, that has taught me so many different things. I've learned how to create business plans. I've learned how to work with other people. I've learned about finance and budgets. I've learned about creating content. Like, the reason I know how to create content is because I had to teach myself how to do it. And I'm learning new things every day. I've learned about marketing, networking. All of these things have just been invaluable knowledge in regards to what I do in my day job. And I'm not saying that's why I do it, I'm just saying it's helpful. So doing things outside of work has really allowed me to open my mind to what I can do inside of work. And it's definitely influenced what I create. It's influenced how I react with the people around me. Working at the Fempire Collective has taught me about other types of people, right? It's taught me to listen to other people's needs and their stories. I don't know, the whole experience is just invaluable. Having something that you're passionate about outside of work is really what keeps my creativity flowing, because it's pushing me to do different things every single day. If you'd like to find out more about the Fempire Collective, plug, you can visit them at We Are Fempire on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and I'm sure you'll see my wonderful face all over it. Bye.